This is Grumple, and this is Mr. Bear. One of these was printed on the Snapmaker U1, which is behind me, and one of them was printed on this machine, the FlashForge Creator 5. And unless you watch my video on the Snapmaker U1, you probably have no idea which is which. And that's because when it comes to printing, these two systems are almost completely identical. Now, this is going to be a review of the FlashForge Creator 5 and not the Snapmaker U1, but I will be talking about the Snapmaker U1 a little bit in this because they're competing directly with each other. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Bambu H2C and the Bambu P2S. Let me put my friends down. Let me know in the comments below which one you think was made on the Snapmaker and which one you think was made on the FlashForge. So my first reviews on the channel were about the Neptune 3 and the Neptune 4, and then the Bambu P1 and X1 came out and 3D printing changed, like forever. And the P1 and the X1 brought with them the world of multicolor, multifilament printing. So there's a new revolution in color happening right now, and what is crazy is Bambu has had almost nothing to do with it. Bambu did release the H2C with its multiple quick swap print heads. Oof, that is really hard to say. And that was a huge, huge improvement in 3D printing until the multi-tool head changers started to arrive. And instead of using a single nozzle that has to purge the color each time, like the P1, the P2, the X1 series, or change the print heads like the H2C, the Snapmaker U1 and now the FlashForge Creator 5 have one tool head for each color. This little thing right here is essentially the same as every other printer in the market, just this one part, I mean. Every printer has a tool head and a print nozzle, but what this system has and what the Snapmaker has is 4 of these guys. The idea is really simple. The colors are loaded from the filament back here, and then they go right into the tool head. And the reason I can pick this up is because this isn't fixed to the gantry like most other printers. This can be switched by the gantry. So when the printer wants to change colors, instead of having to pull filament out of the tool head, bring filament back into the tool head and purge out the filament, what it does is it just swaps this part, which is actually really brilliant. What that means is if you're working with up to 4 colors, every time you switch a color, all it does is pick up one of the tool heads and swap it out, and it takes like 5 seconds to go from swapping the color to printing the color. Meanwhile, the Bambu H2C, the previous speed champion, takes something like 20 to 40 seconds in order to change the print head and get it ready. And I will tell you exactly how long that is down here below when I look it up. And here's what's the amazing thing about this. This is a 3D model that I created using a tool called Neural 4D. This is a sort of Space Marine proxy. This 4-color print on the FlashForge Creator 5 took a little bit over 12 hours. The same print over on the Bambu H2C would have been 18 hours and 34 minutes. That is already a very big difference between the two systems. So on printers like the Bambu P2S or the Elegoo Centauri Carbon 2, this would have taken 1 day and 18 hours. That is a crazy amount of time. If I'm doing a 12-hour print, I will start it and go to bed. If I'm doing a 34-hour print, I am going to sit there and babysit it. If something goes wrong, I am just going to cry. With the complexity of a multi-tool head system, you would think that things would go wrong, but with both the Creator 5 and the U1, I have had so far no failures of my prints that have come down to the mechanical operation of the machines. But nothing failed because of the swapping of the tool heads. It's been really amazing. I've been using this printer for a couple hundred hours right now. I probably have 600-700 hours on the U1, no mechanical failures. There are some very specific limitations to the multi-tool head system, and that right now is based around how many tool heads there are. There are 4 tool heads, which means you can either do a 4-color print or a 3-color and 1 support material print. I have a whole video about this, but the TLDR is that PLA and PETG don't stick well to each other. And so if you want to do something where the supports come off really easily, print the model in PLA and put the supports in PETG, or do that the other way around. If you want to do that with a 4-tool head system, obviously now you're at 3 colors and the support material. If you only have to print a 1, 2, or 3-color piece, that's fine, right? But if you want to start doing 4-color things and you want to do the support material, you're out of luck. Meanwhile, with the Bambu H2C, I can print multiple colors. I can do way more than 4 colors plus the support material. If I want to print really huge array of colors, I can do that just by stacking more AMSs together. This system is limited to 4, which brings up the other problem. Right now, the Creator 5 and the Snapmaker U1 have only external filament holders. They are just basically spool holders. The filament feeds into the back. Now, for PLA, that's not such a huge problem. PLA can get pretty humid before it starts to have problems. PETG, less so. It soaks up more moisture. A lot of the filaments that are exotic filaments, those cannot just sit outside in humid air without causing real big problems printing. So while the AMS system is a dry box and the AMS2 Pro system is a dryer, here you have your filament sitting out in whatever moisture and heat you have in your workspace. Let's get to comparing these two systems. It might sound like I'm bashing the FlashForge Creator 5 at this point, but let me set the stage by giving you some pricing information. The Snapmaker U1 is $1,000. The Creator 5 is $800. The output from the two of them is identical. Now that we've set that expectation, let's talk a little bit about the Creator 5 versus the Snapmaker U1 when it comes to the feel and operation of the printer. Or if you're a more computer-oriented person, the UI and UX of it. Everything on the Creator 5 is the same as things on the Snapmaker U1. They just don't feel as solid, as robust. No, they don't feel exactly as well made. Now, they don't feel bad. They don't feel like they're garbage. They just obviously have kept the price down by making the user do some of the things that the Snapmaker U1 might have done for you itself. So here's an example. On the Snapmaker U1, there are external extruders. As soon as you put the filament in, that starts to suck the filament into the printer. You don't have to touch it once you put the filament into the little box on the side. With the FlashForge, God, this is so hard to say. With the FlashForge Creator 5, you do not have that. Instead, what you have is little holes over here in which you have to manually feed the filament until it gets to the tool head. I have filaments in here already, so let me show you what I mean. Let's say that you want to take this filament out of this tool head. With the Snapmaker U1, you simply push a button on the screen that says unload, and it does the whole process by itself. With the FlashForge Creator 5, in order to get the filament out, you have to click on this to cut the filament, and then you have to manually pull the filament out of the tool head. If I wanted to load this filament, I would have to push the filament in manually up until I can feel a resistance, push the same cutter, and then push the filament in until it seats all the way, and then when I pull in the filament, it won't come out. Is that a big deal? No. Is the experience on the Snapmaker better? Yes. Is it enough better to be $200 more? I don't know. Another thing you won't find on the Creator 5 that is on the Snapmaker U1 is front panels. There is no front panel here unless you go and get the extra kit in order to turn this into an enclosed system, which since the filament is exposed, that's not a big problem. And that's even what Bambu did with their first system. In order to save money on the P1 over the X1, they just shipped the P1 with no door. But the front and the back glass on the Snapmaker are not for show, but they're not particularly functional unless you get that extra kit because it's open here at the top, and so it doesn't really matter what the doors are doing if all of the heat and humidity is coming in and out of the top. There's other little things like the camera is not particularly fantastic in here, although it works. And then something that might seem like a bigger deal is the difference in the size between the print beds of the FlashForge and the U1. Now the Snapmaker is bigger, and holding them up, you might be wondering how much bigger it is. If I line up the front parts, it is not that much bigger. Another design choice that just comes down to personal preference is that on the Creator 5, all four of the spools are on one side of the printer, while on the Snapmaker U1, two of them are on one side and two of them are on the other. But I prefer all four spools on one side because that means that I can space this out from the next unit over and give myself enough room to reach back here and grab the spools. Some people prefer the two spools on each side because then they don't have to reach really far back in order to get to the other filament. And there is one more issue that comes back to this Warhammer proxy that I did, which is right now, there are not 0.2, 0.6, or 0.8 nozzles for either of those systems. One other thing on the U1, when you change the spools entirely, it does a little bit of a purge, and when it does the purge, it has a little bucket in the back that the stuff purges into. With the Creator 5, the printhead moves all the way to the front, and it purges here to the side of the bed. You just get a spool of filament down at the bottom. It's not a huge issue. You just pick up the filament, throw it out. If this was the first multi-head printer available to most recreational or enthusiast 3D printers, this would have been heralded as a phenomenal machine. And I think it is a phenomenal machine. For what it does this very well. Let's circle back now to what I was saying about how crazy the 3D printing market is. Right now, you can buy a printer at what was the same cost as the original revolution in multicolor multifilament printing and get a system that is much more capable of that in almost every way, except for the ability to stack multiple AMS systems together. This printer runs circles around what those printers could do when it comes to 4-filament printing. We still are at the very beginning of this technology, and it looked for a while with the Bambu H2C like the multi-printhead system was going to be the dominant system from the top end and then trickle down into the more consumer market, but I don't think that's going to happen anymore. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. Just a little while ago, when people were asking me what printer they should get to get into 3D printing, my answer was the Bambu P2S. Now when they ask me which printer they should get, the answer is the FlashForge Creator 5 or the Snapmaker U1. And that is a seismic shift in the 3D printing world. If you noticed anything I did not mention here, some nuance that you thought about, do me a favor and let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear about that. For my money, or more importantly, for your money, I do not think that there is a better entry-level printer system you can get right now than the FlashForge Creator 5. The relatively low price of this machine, combined with the excellent print quality and the blazing fast speeds, makes this an absolute no-brainer. In fact, now I'm kind of sorry that you had to sit through this whole video when I could have just started with, you should buy it. If you want to see more of my videos about 3D printers or 3D printing, here's a playlist for you to go through, and it includes things like the review of the Bambu H2C, the P2S, and things like how to use a multicolor multifilament system to do that kind of printing with the supports that I was talking about earlier in the video. And that's my take. I'm David Schloss, and as always, thanks so much for giving this a try.